Blah boobity bye, blah blah. Blah boobity bye, boo blah 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 boobity bye, blah 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 blah.
Welcome to Points of View. Now, lights please. And we are behind the scenes at the BBC's election hub. Already, as you can see, rather frenetic. It's due to get even busier during the next week. In a moment, an issue that triggered thousands of phone calls to the BBC switchboard and has led to an unreserved apology, and they're rare. But first, this place. It's huge, isn't it? Election night itself will see an unprecedented 20 hours of live coverage in HD coming from this studio. A far cry from hustings of the past.
Now, in a moment, you'll be getting much more detail.
In 1966, BBC coverage could be described as fairly basic.
We can just get a broad regional picture. You'll see there have been considerable variations, if I can get this thing steady. Feltham.
The technology started to make its presence felt in 1970.
Let's then look at the state of the parties now at just coming up to 20.
In a swing to the right, 1987 brought the lights of Piccadilly Circus. In a swing to the left, in 1997, graphics reigned supreme. By 2005, much like parliamentary candidates having put in the groundwork, the BBC's election producers hoped their coverage was on target and hit the spot on the day. But just as voter apathy is a major concern for the political parties, election overload threatens to send some viewers reaching for the off switch.
I should think everyone is sick and tired of the BBC's political views of the election issues. By the time the election is here, I doubt if many will vote purely for being bored to death.
Must the BBC bore us with election coverage on the news when it has a dedicated channel, BBC Parliament, which has no coverage of the House of Commons or the House of Lords at the moment?
I have had enough of your rescheduling regular programmes with politics. They have extra programmes already on the schedule, plus news coverage. I now have reached an overload of coverage by the BBC.
There's been one much appreciated comic element to the election coverage, which won all-round praise, though. The election special episodes of Yes Minister that brought some light relief to Newsnight.
Such a good word, manifesto. Manifest means clear, and O means nothing. Nothing is clear. How true.
Loved the new Anthony J sketches played by Henry Goodman. Wish he'd write a new series for TV again. It's been too long. Look forward to seeing more.
Now let's park politics for a second and move on to another target for outrage. More than 5,500 people phoned the BBC last weekend alone, and our inbox stretched at the seams with the weight of incoming venom. Why? This little fella had the temerity to dance across our screens during the closing minutes of last week's Doctor Who with explosive results.
I've seen these incredibly irritating animated promos popping up on some satellite channels, but never thought the BBC would follow suit. There is nothing that says we have no respect for our audience more than breaking the carefully built tension of a drama with an animated logo that shouts, "Look at me!"
It totally removed me from the moment, spoiled my enjoyment, and put me in a bad mood all night.
It shows contempt for the viewers and the programme itself.
I demand someone from the BBC comes on Points of View to apologise for ruining this episode.
Strong views there, and that is just a tiny selection. So what possessed the marketing department to trespass on Doctor Who, and what is their reaction to the backlash they've caused?
The Over the Rainbow trail in Doctor Who should not have played out on Saturday, and we apologise to all Doctor Who fans whose enjoyment of the show was disrupted. We recognise the strength of feeling that has been expressed, and are taking steps to ensure that this mistake will not happen again.
Good to see them taking all those viewer complaints seriously and actually apologising. Now, drama of a different kind. 5 Daughters, the story of the 2006 Ipswich prostitute murders, played on 3 consecutive nights on BBC One.
Is it her? Is it my Nettie?
Rashmi, I'm so sorry. It's bad news. I've watched every single minute of Five Daughters and have just realised what those families went through. From today, I will view drug users in a different way. A mother, a daughter, a sister who just needs as much support and help as anybody else in the UK needs. Well done, BBC, you've opened my eyes.
The production of this drama is excellent. I do, however, feel that it is rather too soon to make a series of this kind about a real-life tragedy such as this.
This is up there with Kathy Come Home, memorable, intelligent, attitude-changing drama.
Another drama based on genuine case notes, but from more distant times, was the historic legal tale Garrow's Law. Universally praised by viewers, the series disappeared without trace after only 4 episodes, leaving fans demanding more.
I really enjoyed Garrow's Law because it stood out compared to lots of the other dramas that are on. It's a crossover between a costume drama and a courtroom drama, so you get the best of both, really. You get the, sort of the interest and the intrigue around the courtroom drama, but you get the sort of the historic aspect of it. And it's very visually rich. And the fact that it's based on a real character makes it just so much more interesting for me, because you have a sort of real historic element to the story.
The programme uses genuine legal cases from the late 18th century to focus on the work of barrister William Garrow, who pioneered the rigorous cross-examination of prosecution witnesses that paved the way for our modern legal system.
My client's life is at stake. Now, would you please recall what you swore?
I thought the characterisation was excellent. You felt that you sort of knew the characters fairly well. There was some depth to them. You cared about what happened to them. There was a sort of love interest element going on as well, which I quite enjoyed. And I was quite intrigued to know how that would pan out. So I was very disappointed when it ended after 4 weeks.
We caught up with the executive producer for the verdict on whether there will be more.
Garrow is indeed coming back. We've been commissioned for a second series. We'll start filming in late June up in Scotland for another 4 episodes, with hopefully transmitting at the end of the year.
Garrow's Law. Well, here you have the election swingometer in our studio. I'll show you over here, just as it allows us to measure the movement of votes between parties. Conservative Labour. If I click a switch here, you can see the other one, Lib Dem Labour. And actually, watch this. Turn it off, please. There we go. That's all I can see. It's just green everywhere. Now, World Cup coming up soon in South Africa, and anticipating football widows who are going for sun and safaris rather than a tan on the terraces, BBC 4 has been doing a week of travelogues crisscrossing the country.
Jumbo, Jumbo, Kenya.
Walking on the sand, and this time the ocean's this close.
It's surely a bit sad that Richard E. Grant's recollection of childhood, the history of safari, BBC 4, shall be so inextricably linked with the slaughter of wild animals, for no better reason than providing sport for the ruling class, with time on their hands in colonial Africa.
The scenery shown at the beginning of Julia Bradbury's Walks was very promising, but this was a turgid programme. I appreciate the purpose could have been to provide a flavour of what you could experience for yourself, but the vast majority of viewers will not experience it for themselves and were left watching a largely shallow and uninteresting programme.
South Africa, the beautiful country hosting the World Cup, which will no doubt be a big feature of news and sports bulletins when it commences in June. Now, this election set will feature heavily in news bulletins next week. In fact, you can see my colleague Sean Williams just over here practicing with one of the graphic screens. But viewer Peter Arnold is concerned about other elements of the news. Footballers and their private lives and other celebrity gossip which he feels shouldn't be there.
Wayne Rooney will be out of action for 2 to 3 weeks.
The One Show presenter Adrian Charles is quitting the BBC to join ITV. It follows reports that John Terry had an affair with the...
Some of the recent events that I have seen on primetime BBC News
are inappropriate. They are the sort of things I expect to see in a tabloid or a glossy magazine. The news used to stretch you to think about things that were going on in the world. I think the 1984 report by Michael Burke on the famine in Ethiopia touched me deeply.
Ethiopia is turning into the worst human disaster for a decade. It was this iconic reporting that eventually led to Live Aid.
So there, to me, was an example of the BBC's news gathering process actually delivering real benefit. I felt most strongly about a particular news report of the Cheryl and Ashley Cole separation. That when I saw that, I felt that the BBC had finally sunk to the gutter of journalistic reporting.
She has asked for privacy at this time, and we've had no comment from Ashley Cole's side at the moment.
I think what we need to look for is news that is all-encompassing, that adds value to the sum total of humanity, and not to focus on those who have put themselves before the camera.
We took these comments to the BBC News Department.
We're very aware of viewer feedback about celebrity stories, and undoubtedly for many people they are divisive and people have more of an appetite for serious news. However, we have to weigh that against a significant part of the news audience where stories about famous people or celebrities are an important part of the overall agenda for them.
The rural magazine programme Countryfile has made a success of its migration from Sunday mornings to Sunday nights. And amongst its new evening viewers is Hazel Hayes, who was inspired to get into the countryside herself, but feels the programme lets her down.
I've always enjoyed Countryfile. However, since becoming disabled, I'm constantly reminded of activities and places that are no longer accessible to me. The presenters this week were in the Cotswolds, which is a lovely place, but all they showed us were walking or jogging the Cotswold Way. It would be helpful to accommodate the disabled sector of viewers and to offer places of interest which we too can access. So come on BBC, let's see some programmes to include the disabled and the infirm, as we too would like to visit these places.
Good point, Hazel. So what can Countryfile do about it?
We know there are loads of excellent schemes out there for people with disabilities who want to get out and about in the countryside. We've covered schemes to get people out sailing, we've looked at wheelchairs and how they can be specially adapted to tackle the kind of terrain that you might come across in the countryside. But Hazel's absolutely right, we haven't looked at the issue of disabled access for a while now, so the challenge for us is really to look for the right kind of story and to put the record straight on that. And in the meantime, it's really worth looking at the Countryfile website, because it features links to all the places that we feature on the programme, and often those links have information about access.
That's all from the calm before the storm here on the BBC's election special set. Don't forget, get in touch, let us know what you think of all of this week's BBC output. You can write to Points of View, BBC Birmingham, B1 1AY. You're also more than welcome to email. Here is the address, I'm sure you know it, pov@bbc.co.uk. Our website, bbc.co.uk/POV, or you can use the old-fashioned telephone. The number is charged as a local rate call from a landline, and it is 0370 908 3199. This election set is officially unveiled on Breakfast News tomorrow morning. We gave you a little preview here, but for now, lights off, please. How did I do that? Goodbye.